Today, we're going to talk about two quick stories regarding Black Lives Matter. The second one shows how little they actually care for the safety of the country, so that's a pretty big one. But we'll start with this. First, how BLM was temporarily suspended from Amazon's charity platform. So if you aren't aware, Amazon has this Amazon Smile website, where if you purchase things on Amazon through that website, it gives a portion of eligible purchases to charities. You can choose a specific charity, and then it'll donate some of your purchase to the charity. However, BLM, which until recently was one of those organizations you could donate to, has been kicked off Amazon's charity platform for its failure to disclose where tens of millions of dollars in donations it received nearly 2 years ago have ended up. So basically, BLM, for years now, has been receiving tens of millions, probably hundreds of millions of dollars at this point in donations, with their belief that America is systemically racist, we should not only defund, but also abolish the police, and we need to disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family. All of this nonsense is BLM's core goals. And because of this, they've received hundreds of millions of dollars. But it turns out they're not disclosing in any real way where that money is going. When you give to a charity or an organization, you want to know that your money is being used for something good. Now, obviously, if you give to BLM, you've already started off in the wrong place. They're not doing anything good. But even putting that aside, you should still know where the money is going. BLM has failed to do that for quite a long time. And so this step, it was a long time coming. Amazon said that states have rules for nonprofits and organizations participating in Amazon Smile, and you need to meet those rules. Unfortunately, this organization fell out of compliance with the rules in several states. I just want to see how they say that. It says they fell out of compliance. Not that they willfully and knowingly hid what they did with tens of millions of dollars. They didn't do that. They just fell out of compliance because the states were so mean to them or something absurd like that. Like, even the way this is being phrased by Amazon is trying to put BLM kind of as the victim here. So they point out that in just October of 2021, BLM took in more than $65 million in donations. Again, if you take in that much money, you really need to disclose where it's going. BLM has not done that to any real extent, and so it's only warranted that this happened. I just can't believe that it took quite this long. Now, this was only the first story showing how messed up BLM is. The second one, I think, is even worse. Let's give a little bit of background first. Now, the next few articles are going to be more local media sites, and that's simply because mainstream media is not covering this. And I'll show you that in a second. So the story that you probably haven't even heard of is that there was this young black man who tried to shoot and kill a Jewish politician who is currently running for mayor of Louisville in Kentucky. And this, for some reason, is not really being reported on in the media. Now, I know the reason. I'm being facetious here, but let's just find out what happened. So he is apparently a left-wing activist, and he is a suspect in the attempted shooting of the mayoral candidate Craig Greenburg. Now, the guy who shot him, like I said, was young. He is an activist, and it says police have not offered a motive for the shooting, but speculation quickly swirled on social media, linking Brown's arrest, who is this guy, the guy who actually did the shooting, to his activism and affiliation with racial justice organizations. Now, I do want to point out that no one was actually hurt. He went into the mayoral headquarters, there were 5 people in the room, he shot but didn't even hit anybody, and then he ran away. So it's a good thing he's such a terrible shot, because no one was actually hurt. But that doesn't change the fact that he tried to kill someone. He tried to assassinate someone because he's actually a political figure. So if you kill someone who's a political figure, it's more of an assassination, which in my mind is like one step worse for some reason. Maybe it's just a different name. I don't know. But the point is that people who know Brown say jumping to conclusions with more information is irresponsible. And they were saying that they expressed concern about his mental state. And I love how this is always the case. If there's a white person who commits a crime or a shooting, you can immediately talk about how, it's endemic of white supremacy and how horrible these white people are and it's far-right activism. But if there's someone who is very clearly a left-wing activist who shoots at someone who's a mayoral candidate, we can't jump to conclusions. We have to hold back. His attorney said this is not a hate crime, it is a mental health case. Now, the reason I'm talking about this story in relation to BLM is apparent right here. Because the suspect who is accused of trying to kill the Louisville mayoral candidate is out of jail after BLM posts his bond just 2 days after he shot somebody. His bond was set to $100,000, which it doesn't say here, which is unfortunate. Oh, there we go, $100,000. And it was paid for by the Louisville Community Bail Fund. And an organizer with the Louisville Community Bail Fund, which is a project by Black Lives Matter Louisville, said they posted the full $100,000 cash bond on Wednesday. Now, it's pretty obvious why they posted the cash bond. I'm not one to try and bring up race all the time, but he's black. If he were not black, BLM wouldn't care. They would say it was an example of a white guy and white supremacy because he targeted a minority who was Jewish. But because he is black, we have to give him the benefit of the doubt. We have to get him out of jail literally 2 days after he tried to assassinate a politician. 2 days. I don't know about you, but I think you could wait in there at least a little bit longer till they know for sure that he's not a danger to anyone else in the community. This is kind of ridiculous. But it just goes to show you how little BLM actually cares for the safety of people in America. They care about their narrative. They care about this belief that America is systemically racist and anyone black is being oppressed, even though this guy literally shot at someone. That's all they care about. If you're a criminal, you should be let out of jail, and they're going to use the money that they won't disclose, to anybody else. They can take in millions of dollars and use that to let out people like this. Now, one of the leaders of the Community Bail Fund defended the decision to post this bail, saying that what we become so enthralled in is knowing there is a system willing to punish people even before they are officially charged with a crime. He says, we're talking about jail. We're talking about a system that has people sit in it for years without seeing hearings and trials and play back and forth with their mental health. He added that there was an outcry to get Brown out of jail due to mental health concerns. But again, this is kind of ridiculous. Sure, perhaps there were mental health concerns, but he literally just tried to kill somebody. Why should he immediately then be back on the street? And with money that people spent to your organization to, supposedly help these communities, not make them worse. Now, real quick, Craig Greenburg, who is the mayoral candidate who was shot at, I want to read his statement. He said, "It's nearly impossible to believe that someone can attempt murder on Monday and walk out of jail on Wednesday." He then added, saying that he's trusting the Louisville Metro Police to carry out the investigation, so the individual responsible for trying to kill me will be prosecuted appropriately. And I completely agree with this. And no, I don't think that you should keep someone in jail just for the sake of keeping them in jail. But if you literally tried to kill somebody 2 days ago, and there are complaints or issues with your mental health, then you shouldn't immediately then be released. You need to be monitored and make sure that you're not a danger to anybody, because you literally just tried to kill someone, so you very clearly are a danger. This entire thing is ridiculous here. The only reason it's a story at all that isn't being covered by the mainstream media is because the shooter in question, the alleged shooter, I guess I should say, is black. That's literally the only reason that BLM got him out. But it's also the reason you haven't heard about this story. Here, for example, I'm searching for the alleged shooter by name. This is on Google. I'm on the first page of the news tab. So what you'll notice is we have Fox News, but you have mostly local stories. All of these are local stories besides Fox News. So if we go to page 2, we still see local stories until eventually we come up with Daily Beast, which doesn't really count. And then we see Yahoo News on the very bottom of page 2. If we go to page 3, you'll notice we still don't see anything from CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, none of the real mainstream media outlets. We eventually see Conan, I guess, talking about it, but we're on page 3 and we haven't seen any of these big mainstream media outlets. And the reason for that, as I said at the beginning, is simple. This guy is black. He shot at a mayoral candidate who was Jewish. That doesn't fit the narrative of America as an inherently racist country oppressing black people. And so they're not going to talk about the story. You know with 100% certainty, if he were white, these stories would lead in CNN and New York Times and Washington Post with how he is anti-Semitic. He's probably a Nazi because he tried to kill a Jewish man. But that's not what we're hearing. Instead, BLM is quietly trying to get him out of jail. Well, not trying, they succeeded because he's black. And they're saying that we shouldn't jump to conclusions. We don't know why he did this. This is ridiculous. BLM as an organization is a joke. You shouldn't take them seriously, and you certainly shouldn't pay them in any way. Don't donate to BLM. We've already seen that they don't disclose where that money goes. And where we do see that money, it's to let out people like this. So if you want more criminals, more attempted murderers on the streets, then I guess go ahead and donate to BLM. Me personally, I don't, which is why I will not ever donate to BLM. And as a whole, the organization is doing much more harm than it is good. And I know I'm white, so I can't talk about that, blah, blah, blah. Look at the facts here. They're letting out an alleged shooter 2 days after he tried to shoot someone. Who's making the country a worse place? Not me.